Hello, this is Sarah Soiled Plant and welcome back to my channel. Last year I did a video about the amount of money I spent on plants in 2020 and I'm going to do the same thing for 2021. If you're curious about last year's video, I will put it in the description down below and also in the eye up above so that you can check that video out and see how I did last year versus this year. Last year when I made this video, I ended up splitting it up by spending categories, so plants versus pots and supplies versus equipment. This year, I'm going to do it a little bit differently. I'm going to split it up into how much I spent per quarter, and I'm going to go through my list of what I spent my money on and kind of bring up some highlights and sort of what those things cost, and then give you the overall at the very end. I'd like to do a quick disclosure just for those who are not aware, but this is not meant to brag. I do this so that there is some transparency for how much it costs to, have this big of a plant collection, how to keep buying certain plants. I'm trying to be as transparent as possible in this process so that people are not shocked when it starts adding up how much it costs to buy plants or shelves or any of these things. By no means do I think you need to emulate my spending or anything like that. There are probably ways I could have gone about this to be more cost effective and I didn't have to buy some of these expensive plants. But this is my discretionary income that I have chosen to spend on this particular hobby. So keep that in mind as I'm going through all of these numbers. So in quarter one, it looks like I had some pretty hefty plant purchases at the very beginning of the year. I went to Telly's, which is a store in Troy, Michigan that sells a lot of really cool plants. And they very frequently get some really good tropical stuff in. And they had one of their special shipments come in early January. So I definitely went and got some super fun plants, but it was a pretty hefty price tag. I actually visited Telly's 3 different times in the first 2 months of the year, and it looks like I spent $57.22 the first visit, $337.04 the second visit, and $70.99 for the third visit. I had a couple of other things with Amazon and another plant shop, but those are pretty minor. But for the most part, for Q1, I spent a total of $527. Considering where this goes, that is not too shabby. So in Q2, I actually ended up not buying as many plants, which is good, but all the plants I bought were a little pricey. I bought my Philodendron Splendid, which is one of the most expensive plants I've ever bought, and I bought it at $250. I know nowadays they are going for much less than that, but it is what it is. At the time, that was a good deal, so I bought a plant for $250. That is also the time when I went to Chicago to buy my low variegation Alba Monstera, so that is in here. This is also the time when I hit 1,000 subscribers, so I had my one plant giveaway. I paid for shipping that quarter, and that is also when I got my Anthurium Warwalkinium or Queen Anthurium, and I paid $190 for that Queen Anthurium. I thought it was a very good deal at the time, and I still think it was a pretty good deal. They've gone down in price a little bit, but that was a very good deal at the time. So I feel good about it, even though that is a lot to spend on a plant. But for that plant, I thought it was worth it. And I really like that plant. And it's still alive. I've had it for 6 months and it has not died yet. So I'm very proud of myself. So I only had 4 spending categories, but they totaled up to $542.14 for those 4 items because I had to buy pricey plants, and that just is what it is. Looking at Q3, I only bought 1 singular plant in all of Q3, and that was my Florida Ghost. I paid $120 for that plant off of a local seller here in the Michigan area. Q3 overall was very expensive, and I only bought 1 plant the entire time, which was my Florida Ghost. The thing that made it so expensive was all of the accessories. So I bought 2 different IKEA cabinets and all the stuff that went along with that. I bought a new microphone, this one right here. So I bought that microphone and a boom stand and cords and all the sorts of things you need in order to set up the microphone. So this quarter ended up really pricey. It ended up being a total of $1,171.19. Like I said, there was only 1 plant in there. It was a pricier plant. It was $120. That was my most expensive quarter just because of all of the equipment and cabinets and things. I'm happy to have them now, and they are purchases I'll only have to make once, thank goodness, but they're very pricey upfront costs for sure. In Q4, I had more spending on different plant shelves. I have 3 sets of shelves that I bought from IKEA that I all bought at the same time. They're fairly inexpensive a piece, but I did buy 3 of them. I also bought a lot of like pots and planters and catch trays, different accessories that all add up, you know. If you buy a couple of things at $10 and you buy a bunch of them, they kind of add up. So that was one of those trips. I also had an Amazon order this month to buy soil supplies, which is usually pricey, and I try to kind of order all the things I need all at once instead of splitting up shipments. I also bought my lovely little Hoya australis Lisa. I'm showing you because it happens to be right here. It's also got some lovely root action going in the bottom, but it's doing really, really well. I love it. And it's super cute. Look at those little leaves. I love them. So cute. So the grand total for Q4 for me was $401.27. That leaves a grand total for the entire year. How much I spent on plants was $2,641.60. For a little bit of reference, last year I ended up spending $2,745.34. So technically I'm a little bit less, not a lot less, but a little bit less. At least my spending hasn't gone up. So this is a little bit of good news, at least for me. One thing that I did this year that won't necessarily show up in all of these numbers is that I decided to propagate some of my plants and then either sell them through local Facebook groups or trade them for different plants, and for the most part that has been fairly successful. I have accumulated more plants through trades or selling propagations and using the money I earned from that in order to get a different plant. While that doesn't account for like $1,000 worth of plants, it does account for maybe like a couple $100 worth of plants that I was able to get, or cuttings I was able to get that I otherwise wouldn't be able to because I was propagating plants and selling them. So in conclusion, what I can sort of glean from this information is that I didn't save quite as much money this year as I was hoping I was going to be able to. I think a lot of big ticket items like my cabinets and the new microphone and shelves did play a role. I didn't spend quite as much on shelving and equipment last year than I did this year. So that's definitely part of it. The other thing is that while I bought fewer plants this year than I did last year, I bought more expensive plants. And I kind of figured that that was what was going to happen. Like if there are affordable plants out there that are $10, $20, odds are if I wanted that plant, I would get it already and it would be in my possession already. So the reason that most of the plants I'm buying are more expensive are because those are the ones I don't have. I don't have really, really expensive plants. Even the expensive plants I have aren't as expensive as some of these plants get. Holy cow. You know, I'm selling cuttings of like Audubon Poense. I'm not, you know, Monstera albo money at this point. Nowhere close. I sincerely hope some of you guys found this insightful or interesting. If you did, don't forget to give it a thumbs up or write a comment down below. If you'd like to see more of me, you can always subscribe to my channel. I post videos every Thursday. And if you're super interested in seeing more of my videos, or you've been subscribed for a while and like to catch every one of my videos, you can hit that notification bell so that every time I post a video, you'll be notified immediately. Thank you so much for watching this video, and I will catch you next week. Bye.